Hello, everyone, and welcome to Double O Deep Dive, Pop Culture Pros, home for 007, James Bond, everything Bondian that there is. Thank you for joining us, whether you are on the Facebook stream, joining us live, listening to us on the Facebook replay, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Spotify, on anywhere you can get this show. If you're watching it right now, I thank you. I'm your host, Jason 006 Fishetic, here to bond over bond with some of you guys. With me, as always, Ginny 005, my counterpart in this mission. How you doing today, Ginny?
I'm great. I'm so good. Just got off watching this movie, so I finished it today, and I'm feeling good.
Excellent. Yeah, this is a feel good movie. And then we have 0023, the best damn quartermaster in all of Q Branch, Mr. Ed Gamus. I never know when to use your last names or not. I don't know what you prefer, and I always keep forgetting.
Whenever you feel like it. It's whenever you feel like it.
All right, fair enough. So, Ed, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just my wife just started our annual Harry Potter marathon, like literally. So it was time. I don't have anything against the movies. I just jumped upstairs and it was time to talk about Bond for a little while. But yeah, I'll get back. I'm sure it'll still be going on when I'm done.
I'm sure. Do you guys do this every? You do it every year? The Harry Potter.
She does. I watched them sort of for the first time last year. Really, technically the second time because I crammed like, I don't know, 6 movies in 1 week to go with her to see the premiere of Deathly Hallows, and I remembered none of it. When I got to the movie, I'm like, I have no idea nobody's name. I don't know what the hell's going on. I was better off not watching it. But having said that, last year I enjoyed them. The movies are cool. I like them. They're cool. So
I've actually read all of those books, and I'm House Slytherin. I'm very proudly House Slytherin. Yeah, you know, I'm kind of a jerk like that. And introducing friend of the show, our special guest, our resident Bond villain, or Bond villain is in residence, W.M. Frenzel. Welcome to the show.
Hello, it's me.
I love that you've got I love that you got the Blofeld scar. I love that you got the cat. Will, I just have one question for you, Will. Do you expect me to talk?
Jason, it's a little early for me to start doing bits, so let's just get to the analysis. All right, glasses coming on.
Sorry.
All right, we're trying to keep it. I don't know about you guys. I'm trying to keep it professional here. So this is
obviously
right away. Really great.
Didn't mean to clear it. I needed to clear with your manager. My apologies, WM. I'm going to call you from now on when you come on this show. All right, so we are here doing Skyfall tonight. But before we get into Skyfall, Ed, you were not here for Quantum of Solace. I know you have a lot of thoughts about Quantum of Solace. So please, give us your thoughts on Quantum of Solace.
I took about a 35-minute nap in the middle of it and then woke up to the end. And I thought it was the best version. That's the best time I've seen it. I've seen the movie probably like 5 times, and I think that was my most enjoyable viewing of Quantum of Solace.
Half the movie. It's a quarter of the movie.
I know. Actually, I didn't remember that it was that short of a movie.
It is.
And it wasn't intentional or anything like that. I kind of was just tired, and I just dozed off. And that was it. But I will say, though, and again, I've seen the movie like 5 times before that, though. Not much has changed. I think the action is solid in it. The action scenes are well choreographed. It is, those scenes are exciting, but I knew I didn't miss much during the nap because that's usually when the movie gets boring. So I think maybe my brain just was like, listen, we've done this before. I got your back. I'm going to wake you up when the connection is that you need is ready.
You're welcome, buddy.
And that was it, right? So, it's not the worst Bond movie, like, ever. We'll get to those.
Yeah, we'll get to the worst Bond movies when we get to the Roger Moore era.
I hate almost the whole Roger Moore era, so you don't have to worry about it. There's much. I would rather watch Quantum probably than some of those.
For sure.
Quantum is nothing to rave about. But I did get enough rest, and I was energized, and then I watched Skyfall like right after that. So thank you, Quantum of Solace. Thank you.
You needed
and
it.
this, Ginny, this goes to what you were saying before we started the show. Why we need Quantum of Solace in between Casino Royale and Skyfall.
It helps the universe. It's just it's a nice stepping stone to your beautiful Skyfall. We need it. It's important. It's essential viewing.
It is. It's essential. Look, this isn't the James Bond movie you want, but it's the James Bond movie you need.
Yes,
Quantum of Solace.
And America's not ready to have that conversation, but I am.
Right. So now we leave Mission Quantum of Solace behind us. We get into Mission Skyfall. Before we get into this mission, though, we like to know the people we deep dive with. So, Will, tell us, what's your history with the Bond franchise, your favorite Bond movie, your favorite Bond actor, and any other Bond-related stuff that you care to talk about?
Sure. So I came of age during the Pierce Brosnan masterpieces. That Pierce Brosnan was my first Bond. The first Bond movie I remember watching is The World Is Not Enough. So like GoldenEye came out just before I was like seeing movies, really. And then The World Is Not Enough is the first one that I really remember seeing. Followed by, of course, everyone's favorite, Die Another Day, as beautiful as that was. But I'll save all my thoughts on that one for another time. So I'm going to say Skyfall is probably actually my favorite James Bond movie.
Wow.
If not Skyfall, Casino Royale. And Daniel Craig is hands down my favorite James Bond. I'm actually going to hot take. I think people think Sean Connery is the best Bond because Sean Connery was the first Bond. And I think you put them together and Daniel Craig is the best Bond. He's got like the smoothness for Bond with the bit of the Timothy Dalton edge. And then I also like the Bond video games. That was another thing. Except I'm one of those weird people who hasn't really played GoldenEye because again, I wasn't. My cousins played. I played occasionally when I went over there, but I didn't really see them. I was really into Nightfire, underrated game. I'm pretty sure that's the title, but it's been a while since I've played it, and I didn't bother to double check. But I'm pretty sure the game I loved was Nightfire.
All right. Did you know that? I don't know if you listened to that first episode, but the way Ginny and her siblings solved disputes growing up was through GoldenEye.
That's a very valid way to solve disputes.
An easy solution.
By all means, that's perfect.
Will, I think at some point you and I need to play GoldenEye for Supremacy. Because Supremacy of what, I don't know, but we're always sniping at each other.
I don't know, you're going to kick my butt at it. So
that's why
seem very fair. All right, you can have that. I'll have you in witty repartee, and that's about it. We'll be even.
Well, I mean, on a good day, Will. On a good day. Yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you very much, Will. And yeah, so we got two Daniel Craig aficionados here because Ed's also a big Craig fan. And let us get into.
I already like Ed more than you. It wasn't going to take much, but that already sealed it.
You liked Ed more than me the second you saw him because you like everyone more than me.
Yes, this is true. I liked Ed as soon as I heard his name. His name's not Jason? Perfect.
Look, truth be told, I only asked you on this podcast because I really wanted your brother to come on for Die Another Day, and it was the only way he would do it. So
that's fair.
So we're
I understand
here.
That's fair. I respect the game.
Let's stop sniping and get into the movie. So, cold open, right? We got Bond is hunting down this list of a list of agents who are, is it NATO agents who are like around the world?
Undercover.
Yes.
Undercover. And he has a moment like in the beginning where there's a conscious crisis of conscience where he sees another agent Ronson dying, and he calls in M, and M's like, yeah, I don't care. Go get that list. And then we have some really cool stunts, right? Like Bond's on a motorcycle, and I think my favorite part of this whole thing is when Bond wants to get onto the moving train to like catch the guy who's got the list. He doesn't jump on that train. He rams his motorcycle, so he flips off to the train.
I gasped because it was so sudden and very like real. It wasn't like totally like he like thinks about it. It's almost like an accident. It kind of looks like, and it just like I was like alarmed. I was like, oh, and then it's.
I like to think that people love that bike flip in Quantum of Solace so much that they were like, we got to put another bike flip in the movie. That's what the people want. You put another bike flip in. This is a license to print money. Let's do it.
We got Bert. They'll be too bloody late.
Great line.
That's a great line. Thank you, Bert. So then he gets on the train, and there's a whole scene of him fighting this guy on the train. There's a great scene where they're hitting the tunnel, and they're both fighting, and they both try to just drop, and then they're still trying to fight. And then, of course, there's an awesome moment where Bond literally uses like an excavator or a digger or whatever the hell that's called. Actually, I'm lying. I know it's an excavator because my son watches this show Blippi, and he has an excavator song. So that's always going in my head. But he uses the excavator to rip open part of the train to get in at some point. He cuts it open like a can opener.
It's a pretty wild opening sequence.
It is.
It's also excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. And then, of course, it culminates with him fighting with the guy on the top of the train, and this other agent, who we'll talk about who she is later, is lining up a sniper shot. And she's like, I don't get a clean shot. And M's like, I don't care. Take it. And she does. And she hits James Bond right in the chest. And he just falls into the water.
I also forgot that happened. And I gasped.
Yeah. And then also has like immediate shock because she has the moment where she looks over at the bad guy as he's getting away, as he's about to go to the tunnel, and clearly has the time to turn her head and make eye contact and watch him all the way into the tunnel, but is for some reason too frozen to turn the gun and shoot. It's the only problem in the whole sequence.
That's a great point.
Fair. That's fair.
Well, I mean, I could say though, she was probably kind of stunned though that she thinks she just killed Bond.
Yeah, that's true. If I thought I just get like, and they were like coworkers, yeah. So it's like if I just shot my coworker, I well, depending on the coworker.
She knew it was a weak shot. She knew it.
Yeah.
Weekend.
But then it goes right into the whole opening.
And it goes into the opening, and Bert points out he had to fix the cufflinks first.
Bert's a genius, and you should get him on this show. When is Bert going to be on this show? You can call him in right now. We can just do it. Me, Ed, Ginny, Bert. It'll be perfect.
I mean, Will, if you want me to bump you for Bert, that's fine. He's going to be on for No Time to Die as long as the schedule. But I mean, if you'd rather him on 2 shows than you, that's fine. We can get rid of you.
No,
anyway.
I spent a lot of work on this makeup. So
yes, you did.
Makeup and chalkboard wall. I'm staying.
Oops. And then, Boss Man, thank you for joining us as always.
What up, Farachi?
And then let's see, just a couple other things. Bert says the subtleness in Skyfall is so well done, which is true. I that's part of what I like about this opening in particular is the subtleness, right? Like, and even going back to what we were talking about of him ramming a bike, that kind of looks like an accident. There are so many good choices in this opening that.
Lest we forget the subtleness of the excavator. I thought that was really so nuanced.
Well, hey, look, the thing is to excavate. He excavates his way into the train. It's subtle, all right? Let it be. All right, so thoughts on this cold open? Like, we obviously all like it, but what do we want to, anything we need to add? Ed, you said the least so far, so you have anything to add for the cold open?
No, I just thought it was really exciting. I mean, I love the way it was done. It was action-packed. It kept you on the edge of your seat. I mean, obviously, Bond isn't dead because they're not going to kill the main character right before the damn title starts rolling, and he's James Bond at this point. So, yeah, I think this whole movie, and especially this whole opening, is beautifully shot. Like and especially one thing that I guess I didn't mention in the Quantum thing is I felt like Quantum, the director's name isn't coming to me right now, but he uses shaky cam like to no end in that film, and it was a nice return to like go back away from that. Sam Mendes,
Mhm.
that's not his thing at all. And it could have been handled in like, because at the time when these movies came out, shaky cam was like a big thing. Every action movie was like shaky, 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 and we're gonna make you feel like you're in there. But this movie goes completely away from that and sets a tone for what we have, for the rest of the film. And I think it does a great job with that.
I agree.
Absolutely. Go ahead, we'll take it.
That was also my first immediate thought was, wow, I love looking at this movie so much more than Quantum of Solace. And I think you can make the argument that Skyfall is the best looking Bond movie, hands down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing is thinking about Quantum of Solace is cold open. This succeeds in everywhere that Quantum of Solace failed. I thought Tom did a great job on that one, talking about how the cold open there is very confusing. You don't know who the bad guys are. You don't know. It's hard to follow the action. Here, the story is clear. The stakes are immediate. You know them. You know who is on what team. You know what the objective is. You can follow the set pieces. You're not distracted. And there's no heavy-handed. There's a twist at the end, but the twist is genuinely shocking, and you care about it. And it also sets up the rest of the movie really nicely without like being too reliant on it. Like the one character sets up what's going on, and it's a perfect story. It's a perfect, succinct story in and of itself, and I think that's the most important part of a Bond cold open, with bonus points for then taking that and like, here's the sequel to that story we just told.
And that actually goes to what Bert says, is the opening for Skyfall is one of the best in the series, and it brings you up to speed where Bond is along with MI6. And I think, that goes to what you were saying, Will. It's like it gives you a complete story that then leads into the rest of the film. Jenny,
not Forrester, by the way.
No, totally agree with, especially with, and just following my notes, because I had seen this movie for the first time a year ago. And of course, like my husband had seen it and he was like, raving about it. And I was like, oh, this movie's perfect. It's gorgeous, etc. But then just taking my notes down again and being like, yep. And this is this plot point. But then I'm forgetting just like Will said, the story within a story, how this is this. And there's so much that just little tease up for the rest of the film. And you need this, and we need this just to get the initiative on M and Bond's relationship. And just sort of, and it's very important because it just, I don't know, it'll tie us with our villain, and then, in the rest of the movie too. So yeah, it's great. It's really, and again, twice I gasped because I forgot she shot him. For real. I was like, yeah, this is how the movie goes. This is what happens. Right?
That's one of three things I remembered about this movie. Bond gets shot. Bond spends his retirement drinking and having sex. And then we'll get to the third thing when we get to it, because I don't want to jump ahead too far. But I agree with you, Ginny. I don't think the villain works as much, or I don't think this movie works as much without this cold open, because it sets up, what M is going on, like who M is, and her relationship to Bond, and her relationship to her agents. And when we get to the villain, it like without this cold open, I don't think the power of this villain really hits. So I agree with you that it really is all tied
poetic.
Together.
It's very poetic.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, awesome. So all right, so we hated this. Let's move on.
Yes.
This is one of those movies that I knew we were just going to come on and show love for. I knew it.
Gutter trash.
Don't worry, I do have a couple of bad things to say about it. When we get to those points, I will tell you exactly what I dislike about this movie.
I have a perplexing question. But I'm waiting. I'm curious to see. No. Well, we're getting to it.
When we get to it. So then we get the credits, right? We get Skyfall, the song. So before we go into the credits, what do we think about Skyfall, the song?
She won an Oscar. She won an Oscar for it. Adele.
Yeah. I mean,
how dare I? It's a perfect. She's British. She's a brassy belter.
Yes.
What do you
It's
want?
Perfect.
Yeah,
I would. No, go ahead, Jason.
No, please go ahead, Will.
No, it's your show. No, after you.
All right.
I'm going to jump in then. It's all the right notes. How about that?
Yes.
Ed,
go ahead. Take it away.
No, that was it. I already jumped in. That's it. You guys can resume now.
All right, fair enough. But I am actually going to say that this is, like Burden says, it's a top tier Bond theme. I think it's actually it's in my top 5 personal favorite. And the other 3 are Shirley Bassey. And I bring her up because I think like Adele is the closest thing we get to Shirley Bassey making these songs.
I absolutely agree. I think that goes so well with a lot of what the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, especially Casino Royale and Skyfall, the 2 that I both saw and liked. I think they do a really nice job of, this is a very new, very different James Bond, but then here's, especially Skyfall, here's a bunch of callbacks to the classics. Mm-hmm. And Adele is the perfect part of it. And I, as loath as I am to do this, I agree with you, Jason. It is also one of my top 5, maybe even top 3 James Bond theme songs. I would put it below Diamonds Are Forever, above Goldfinger, honestly, which I think is controversial.
Wow, yeah, that's a hot take.
Just above Goldfinger, if only because every time I sing Goldfinger, I can't help going, Max Power. I slip into that, and it's sort of takes it down. I'm actually going to say my number 1, actually, hot take, Thunderball. I'm just saying Thunderball.
Wow.
Yeah, Tom Jones literally does an impossible stuff with that note at the end, like that jump and his ability to sustain it. But I have very strong opinions that what makes a good Bond, like a great Bond theme, not a good Bond theme. There are other good ones. Upon it being mentioned, I re-listened to The World Is Not Enough theme when it came up, and I was like, yeah, that's a very good one. Yeah. I like the Casino Royale one. But I think that the best ones have a bit of brassiness to them and like are anthems, you know. And so maybe even controversial, Live and Let Die, I think great song, not a great Bond theme. I'm just saying it. But again, there's more on that one later.
I could get to that. And Burt chimes in, License to Kill by Gladys Knight is also great, and I think that goes into it. It's so like a brassy, like, anthem as well. Yeah, I love that one.
Right, plus Madonna, Die Another Day. Everybody loved that one.
Yeah. All right, so the opening credits, Bond is drowning. Bond is different incarnations of Bond is being shot in the same place he was shot, which I thought that was super cool. Like, you see the cutout targets, and then he's in the water, and then there's the Chinese dragons, and I realized this, and then of course there's women. There's always women in the water. He's walking in the sand a bit, which reminded me a bit of Quantum of Solace. But then he like turns around and he shoots a bunch of his own shadows, which I thought was cool. And I realized
he was shooting himself in Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Did you get rid of that?
Let's move on.
Even James Bond is like, not one of my best missions. So.
By the way, I actually dug the song for Quantum of Solace. I actually thought that was kind of cool.
I feel like people don't like that, you know?
I know. I mean,
I love that you guys are saying that, but that's funny.
I can't remember a thing about it.
Well, just put it this way. I was going in and I was trying to not hate watch it. And I was like, oh, okay, I knew we would talk about a theme. So I was like, okay, I kind of like this more than what else is going on, and I know what's coming. So, all right, enough of Quantum of Solace.
All right. I actually think that this opening is Bond's fever dream while he's like dying in the river. I mean, like I'm laughing, but I really do think that's what it is.
You know what's a cool shot in that sequence? I was going to say, I just want to throw it in there.
No, please,
again, everything foreshadows towards the end. But in making my notes, thank God I'm writing notes down. But going, oh, you know what's cool? The knives and the guns going into the ground and coming up as graves. Mm-hmm. And just later, because I was like, knives. Oh man, knives are not Bond weapons, really. And then later in the end, it is. And it's very key, like it's it's old school as it were. But I was like, and that's very clear in the beginning. And it's a cool image.
Ginny, I'm so glad you did your homework, and now I feel bad that I meant to take notes. I was like, I have to at least have a cheat sheet. I've got the Wikipedia page basically to look up and make sure I don't forget anybody's names. And then my big thing for my note for myself was, it's tomorrow. It's the world is not enough. Not tomorrow never dies. It's the world is not enough. Not tomorrow never dies. In all
fairness,
because I always jump those titles.
A lot of my notes are a lot of this scene is hot. This scene is hot. This is cinema. This is beautiful. This shot is cinema. Like those are my notes.
They're all exactly correct. So well done. You really, like Jason said, subtle. The whole movie, subtle, and you really picked up on that.
I think my favorite note, which we'll get to later, it's just one word with an exclamation mark. Kincaid! Exclamation mark.
Yes!
I have a Kincaid
just so you know what my notes are.
I have to be careful. I'm going to be agreeing with Jason too much and breaking characters. This is terrible.
Yeah, I know this is terrible, isn't it?
I just am going to echo everybody else's thoughts because I talk too much about everything else and say, yeah, everybody's dead on. It's an excellent intro. Beautiful to watch, beautiful to listen to.
Ed, any thoughts?
What, regarding the opening theme? Sorry, I was reading the comments over here that Bert is he's firing away over here.
He is.
No, I think the opening sequence, like Ginny said, like the foreshadowing throughout the opening sequence is pretty awesome. And I didn't remember some of that, from the last time that I had seen Skyfall. So I actually just connected that part a little bit better, though. But I think the adult theme is really cool. I really enjoyed that. And, it was a pretty good opening scene.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So let's get into, before we get into the plot, because I think I always like to save the plot before we get into the villain. Let's talk about James Bond himself. So Will, you could start us off because I think I'm trying to rotate the teacher in me. I'm like, I've called on Eddie, I've called on Ginny. Have I called on Will? I have to pretend that Will isn't my least favorite student here.
You should just get popsicle sticks with our names on them, and then you just pull one out every time. Here's who's going next. But you never show us that the secret is you never show the names, so they can just be empty popsicle sticks, and you're just making it up as you go along anyway.
Which is
I just didn't happen to draw your name.
But yeah, what do you think about James Bond? The overall the characterization of James Bond in this movie.
Overall, as Ginny's notes will probably say, excellent. And then I'm going to say the reason that Daniel Craig is my favorite Bond and why I think he is far and away better than everybody else is he's the Bond you actually care about. Like beyond just superficially, he's so cool. I want to do the things he can do. Look at how suave he is. Like Daniel Craig's Bond is consistently a Bond that's not afraid to be like vulnerable and gruff, but then also super cool when the need arises. And I think that coolness means more when he's gotten his butt kicked quite a bit and like is rugged and gruff. And then when he cleans up nice, it means a lot more.
I was good.
Oh, no, I thought I saw Jenny say something.
I just like that he said when he cleaned, it means more when he cleans up, or like it just hits harder when he cleans up. It looks nice next time.
Well, yeah, I think we talked about it in the Casino Royale episode, though, and it's probably going to be a theme throughout the Daniel Craig series. This is the most fleshed out Bond we've ever gotten by far, and a lot of it's due to Craig, and a lot of it's due to the writing and the approach that they took to make him like a real character this time, instead of I don't want to shit on the other Bonds because I enjoy them all to different levels, except of Roger Moore, but I don't know. I just think he's the most fleshed out one. And then, like you said, Craig does a lot of it. The writing is a lot of it. And it's more of a humanized approach. And you said it, you made a great point, though, Will, is that it's when he, cleans up now and we're waiting for Bond to get into the tux at some point. You're like, all right, he just cleaned all this blood off of him. He's finished kicking some guy's ass. And now it's like, all right, he's going to go ahead and get suave now. One thing with Bond that is perplexing in this is, how is he alive after the opening scene? Because not just us. Like the people in the movie are pretty well like off to say that he's dead. Like he's really dead.
And
I watched that
obituary.
And yeah,
I watched that fall for the second time. Like I had forgotten how obviously dead he should have been, and then like I'm watching this scene, and when he falls, and they really make a point of showing the height he's falling from, and the way he lands. They show him landing notably with his neck bent forward and tucked. And I went, oh, that should have killed him. That kills people. That should have been, the sound should have been like in Les Mis when Russell Crowe's Javert jumps off and you hear that real satisfying smack and you know he's dead. That's what should have played.
Yeah, it should be like hitting cement. It should be like from that height.
No, Bert's right, 100%.
Right.
The reason.
Plot is the reason.
It's the plot armor that he's wearing that is the perfect airbag.
MI6 given plot armor.
That's right.
Well, I mean, we all can understand that Bond survives a lot of random crazy shit throughout these movies, and that's fine. But the fact that you like took the time to humanize him so much in this series, and that you went to the extent of showing him, like it said, the way that he's like dead, and the characters are all believing that he's actually like dead. Then it's like, nah, I'm just on a beach drinking. And my next note is Bond drinking himself to death. Is where we pretty much found him. Because they even make references to that. That's like, oh yeah, no, he's just gonna drink himself to death.
Where the scorpion will get him, right?
Yes, by the way, scorpions don't get him either.
That scene where he's doing shots with the scorpion on his head. That's look. Honestly, alcoholic, like I don't give a fuck Bond. Like MI6 burned me. Everyone thinks I'm dead. I'm just gonna drink and get it on here.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember where he is. Where is he in this? I didn't think of
I said like South America, but I'm sure I'm wrong.
Yeah, I thought it doesn't matter.
I don't think it's specifically mentioned.
Okay, so
I don't think it is.
I don't think it's specifically mentioned. It's one of those places where you say it and then you immediately feel racist because no matter what, you're just picking. Well,
and we're certainly not Europe, or maybe
no. But I that like this scene with this like kind of mini thing with Bond where he's drunk and what I love about this Bond is he does get drunk. This is the second time we see him sloppy and slurring and but him doing the shot with the scorpion and then he has he's having random sex. So I was watching this with my wife Regina, who again doesn't like movies like this, right? It's not her thing, but she thinks Dan Craig's hot. So she watched about the first 20-30 minutes with me. And she watched this and she went, well, what else are you going to do when you're not bonding? That was her comment about this. And I was like, you know what? Good point. What else are you going to do when you're not bonding?
You're just, bonding.
You're living with these demons. You've got all these demons.
And he's not shaving, which we know is a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
That's how you know he's going through a rough time.
That's true. When
not
men don't
shaving
shave.
Bond is bad.
I actually love that, like, from the neck down, he's hot, and from the neck up, he looks like shit. Like, he looks like shambling garbage from the neck up. But from the neck down, he's like an Adonis.
Yeah. Neck up, he's like unshaven. Looks like he's had his nose broken multiple. Like his face is not the face of a conventionally handsome Bond.
No,
and they go out of their way to make him look even more disheveled in this in the beginning. Anyway, like when he's got the beard and like
he's very sallow.
Yes,
like
when he gets that close shave, suddenly everything is.
We needed the stubble for the shave.
Exactly.
He's completely hot again.
And then he's hot.
Any other thoughts on James Bond the character before we move on?
I just love that there's something so like you said sensitive about him too though, where he just like with the one agent in the beginning and he's like I'm gonna lose him and he like twice he's like I can't go to he doesn't want to leave him. I feel he's so reluctant to leave him and I'm like that's so baby
and such a thing I feel very exclusive to Daniel Craig James Bond.
This like vulnerability that he had,
that like he was but also fitting with his like edginess of like his no I do what I want because I know what's right,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna put what's right over like the mission or what's like one of the good things about Quantum of Solace was when he was like, no, I don't care about the politics. I'm going after this guy because it's right. Also vengeance, but also right.
Like it's hubris a little bit, but it's like in a good applied
Yes.
in a good way.
Well, another thing I wanted to point out about Bond, I guess, besides the fact that we learn more about his childhood and the home and everything else later on, is that there's no mention at all of Vespa in this film.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Not 1 second, which I didn't even remember that was a thing. Like, that was almost like totally omitted from this. And then every other one of his movies, there's at least 1 or 2 mentions of Vespa. And there's none of that here. And there's no Felix Leiter either.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Felix.
no Leiter at all.
Yeah,
and actually,
he's so heavy in all the other ones.
And actually, I think the thing about Vesper not being mentioned, that was one, I'm not going to say incongruity, because like Quantum of Solace wasn't written. Like we know this, right? It was filmed during the writer's strike. So I'm not going to like ding a movie that didn't have writers for not being well written, right? But like when this movie picks up and we see him have that moment of like, oh no, that guy Ronson is going to die. I don't want to, I don't want to leave him. Like, not the James Bond we had in Quantum of Solace, where he's just like, shh, let this happen. Let this happen. We're just murdering people indiscriminately.
Yeah.
Well, I think that does a nice job of actually implying how much he's grown since Quantum of Solace. Because I think Quantum wraps that up.
Another great reason
so
to love
he
Quantum.
can move on. Yeah, sure.
Closure. Closure for everyone.
And I will say, so when I first watched this movie, I saw it in theaters without having seen Quantum of Solace. And I still felt like, oh yeah, this movie builds off of Casino Royale real nicely. Because I think the big tie-in here is the story with James Bond and M through 3 movies. And I think that throwing in Vespa at all and making us think about that would take away from that narrative. And so I think it was a good move to not worry about Vespa, to not throw Felix into this one, because it still feels like, again, it ties to Casino Royale, but now we're introducing new things for moving on, later on. Here's Q now. We've built to it. If you put Q in this story and then those other things, I think it overloads the film.
No, I bring those up, though, not as a ding towards it, simply because looking forward, we know that the Vespa stuff is not wrapped up. If you see No Time to Die, it gets mentioned in that. And I don't remember if she gets mentioned in Spectre or not.
She does. They
have Spectre. To. Okay. No, and again, it's not a knock. I fully agree with you that this story serves better than it, and plus it's not about that. But usually in 4 of the 5 movies, there's at least some mention.
That's a good point.
Of her, just at some point, and I don't care. Again, it didn't bother me. I just didn't realize it. I didn't recall it not being mentioned at all. Because again, now that we know where this whole story ends up, this is the one where they were kind of like, all right, let's shove that shit to the side and move forward with it. And again, with Leiter also.
It's a very British movie, though, with Felix in it, because Felix is not so American, but he is like our American liaison.
He always finds a way.
It's such a British like Parliament, and oh man,
So, Felix is inevitable.
Fun fact: Felix is inevitable, like Thanos.
That's it.
Fun fact about Felix Leiter in the books. So in the books, after Live and Let Die, which is the second book, he is horribly maimed by a shark. And he comes back in Diamonds and Forever, but he's got like he's lost a leg and he's got a hook for a hand and he no longer works for the CIA. So a fun fact thrown at this. We're talking about Felix Leiter.
Felix meets a shark in the movies.
It's a
call. It's a callback to that.
I didn't realize it was a callback to the book. I'm like learning. I love learning things about that.
Frank, what's up? Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you on our 00 Deep Dive tonight. All right, so I think if we're done with Bond, I think, and normally this is not a category, but it has to be in this one. We need to talk about M and her trajectory, because I think this movie is every much M's movie as it is Bond's movie. It might actually be more M's movie because it's her swan song, it's her goodbye. So, like, what do we think about M and her, like, the end of Judi Dench's role? Which, as a reminder, she started in GoldenEye as a completely different version of this character. So how do we feel about, like, this ending for her and her role in this movie?
I thought it was nice that she got to be the Bond girl in essentially in this. I thought it was very fitting, and like I was saying before, I think it's a really nice arc and Quantum of Solace for. We're gonna make it sound like it's a good movie accidentally.
It's not a bad movie. I'm just saying.
Look, it's like the Age of Ultron of the James Bond movies. It's not a good movie on its own, but it's like it's a good movie in the universe that legitimately helps make the universe stronger. But I think that we see her arc so clearly, and it's a very nice send off. It's a fitting send off. It feels earned. She gets a great character arc in this, and yet I wasn't totally seeing it. Like, I didn't see her dying at the end of this necessarily. Like it seemed like there was a real possibility, but it didn't seem foregone. Until Ralph Fiennes started shooting, and he was clearly a good guy. I will say that I don't know if this is jumping back to the plot, but like,
that's fine.
I really thought that good old Ralph Fiennes was going to be revealed to be a bad guy in this movie for the longest time. I really was like, he was going to be a secondary bad guy. And then I was pleasantly surprised to be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first saw this movie, I kind of thought the same thing up until Ralph Fiennes takes the bullet for M in, like, the middle of the movie. And then I was like, okay. And then after that, they take great pains to make you know this is a cool guy. We like this guy. Like, he has that moment with Q when he finds, and we'll talk about the new Q, but he finds Q, like, doing something to help Bond and M at the end, and he's like, all right, well, keep going. And they're like, well, what if the prime minister finds out? And he's like, well, then we're all screwed. Like, all right, keep doing what you're doing. So, I agree with you. Yeah, as you are. Ginny, what are your thoughts about M and her like arc and trajectory?
I loved it, and I had a weird question, and I don't know if this applies to all the M's in the series, but it definitely made me want to talk about her when she was to Bond, when she breaks into her house again, her apartment, and is like, so I, like, I'm back, I'm to duty, and they, he kind of confronts her about, like, his fake death and everything, and she was like, I did it. You know why I did it? This is what we do. No hard feelings, or trying. And I thought to myself, was she in Bond's position? She was. Is that the history of M? Was he a field agent? Were they a field agent?
I would say so, and this is why I would say so, because Bond respects M, Judi Dench, a lot, right? And when Mallory first comes, Ralph Fiennes' character, he makes a thing like, yeah, this guy's never been in the field. Like, he kind of is condescending. So I think for Bond to have the respect and adoration he has for M, she must have been a field agent at some point.
Okay, cool. Because I talked to my husband about that, and he's like, I don't think that's necessary, or he's like, I don't think they need to be. But I was like, and especially hearing her, like, talk from experience, almost, to be like, I've done this, like, or
She also specifically mentions that she was never a good shot, which also implies that she had weapons training and had to use it at some point. And, it implies that she was an agent before she was like M.
Yeah. And I was like, give me that movie. Give me, like, a little, the 70s, or, espionage.
If Sony held on to this franchise long enough, we probably would have had it.
We probably would have, yeah.
We'd have a spin-off of them, sure.
Why not?
Look, I was thinking when I was watching this movie, because my favorite M moment in this movie is at the end where she's making the bombs out of the gunpowder, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, can you please give me the prequel to M where it's like M Home Alone in like the 60s or whenever she was a kid, and people are trying to break in her house and she's like just leaving traps.
As I wasn't the only one who thought about Home Alone and when they get to
yeah.
Absolutely.
No.
I was
good.
like, yeah, it's really fitting because I had literally just watched Home Alone 2 last night. So it was really fresh in my head while I was rewatching Skyfall today. And I was like, oh man, they literally just go full on adult Home Alone.
Full Home Alone at the end of that movie, at the end of this movie, when she's making, and it's awesome. Like, it's cool to watch her
It's
like
great.
make the explosions, but it's like
Yeah,
whenever
in my head, I'm just in the doom, 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 doom. That's I think
I picture her going like, come and get me. Like, what's the Kevin McAllister line?
I'm right here, but you can't get me.
Come and get me. But it's like Judi Dench.
Yeah. I think the saddest part about her dying at the end is that we never get the spin-off movie of her and Kincaid and a resolution to all that sexual tension that was just oozing. I was like, I've never been so into two old people and wanting them to get together in such a short amount of time.
Well, you gotta sign off. You guys got to go sign off and write fanfic about Kincaid and M getting together.
I'm sure it's there. I'll find it.
Keys, dude. Keys.
So, any other thoughts about M before I have one more thing, but I want to let someone else talk.
Well, I love the callback of him breaking into her apartment again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like in Casino Royale. That's great.
Yeah, it's like such a Batman thing.
It is. It is a Batman.
Like Batman showing up, Commissioner Gordon turns around like, what? What was I going to say? That was such a great point that it thoroughly distracted me from what I was going to say. Oh, so I also love how deeply flawed she is and how the movie shows the flaws and like can get you to be like, oh, I really think I maybe dislike her. Especially when Sylvia's like talking about like, oh, this is what she did to me.
Yeah.
And then she has that line where she's like, he was on his own. I traded him to save 6 other lives. I'd do it again with anybody. Like, that's the reason.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Speaking of that she's like screws up or that she's very flawed, is that I always love in movies when you have one F word and you have to use it, and it has to be like, if it's used strategically, it's great writing and it's great and it works, because you always need to throw an F-bomb in there. But she gets it, and I was like, and it's just I really effed up, didn't I? And it was just and it's like it's just so, because she's so great, and it's like, and it's just a perfect moment of her just acknowledging.
I was so unexpected, like not expecting that word to come out of Judi Dench's mouth, that I literally had to go back 10 seconds to hear her say.
She's a national treasure.
That's why it was so perfect. That's why, because when you have one F-bomb and you have Judi Dench in your movie, you give it to her.
Mm-hmm. That's what made Cats. We all know it.
Oh, the one F-bomb in Cats.
You guys remember?
I haven't seen it.
We all definitely saw Cats and remember Judi Dench's F-bomb.
I'm going to be honest. I either didn't see Cats or I did what I do about movies that I really hate. I convinced myself it doesn't exist. So I don't remember anything about that movie if I've seen
Both options are acceptable.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So here are my things with M. I think the character of not M itself, having nothing to do with M, but with the name. This is my only like nitpick with the movie, is the fact that we find out that in Casino Royale, her name begins with M, because he has that line like, I thought M was just a title. And then by the end of this movie, Mallory, Ray Fiennes becomes M. And my question is, do you really have to have the first initial M to get this fucking job?
Yes, that's number one on the internet.
Yeah.
They throw your resume out immediately if it's not.
There was a guy named.
Like, well, my name is Al. No, fuck you.
Right? No, you can't be A. You've got to be M. Can't you be Mal?
Qualified.
Nope, you're Mal now.
So that was one thing I just want to point out. Again, Will.
No, it would have. I don't know if I needed this, but it would have been nice to then, when she dies, get a little tombstone shot. What's her actual name? Like, pay. You made that a point in Casino Royale, and she's been M since GoldenEye. It feels like that would be a nice Easter egg payoff thing, but because Mallory is just M again, and like there's no mystery about it now anyway. So.
And that's the thing. It seems to confirm that you have to have that name, so it's like, might as well just give it to us. We know it's M. Starts with M.
It's either him or Mark. And
yes, Mark or Mallory.
Mark tends to call out sick on Mondays a lot. I think he's got a drinking problem.
Yeah, so does James Bond. Anything about M, Ed, before we move on?
No. I think you guys kind of just nailed every part of it. Outside of they do a nice job of furthering the relationship between Bond and M that was started in Casino Royale, and now they're kind of just like at odds. And in the beginning of the film, and obviously Bond's pissed at her, and I guess kind of leave her hanging, and then it is kind of sweet how they leave off because they genuinely care about each other. Yeah. And he goes out of his way, gets her in the Aston Martin and everything, and they drive off, and it's kind of like, all right, I need to really protect her. They actually care, and this guy Silver is nuts.
Yes,
and it's nice to have that story. It's nice to have M be a real character, fleshed out, instead of just being, Charlie in Charlie's Angels, but you get to see her.
Yeah,
Agreed. And we'll jump to the end real quick because we're doing M's thing. Like when she dies in Bond's arms, that hit me emotionally. I mean, so the fact that's why I say this movie is every much M's movie as Bond's, because like they flesh her out in a way, even in the former Craig Bonds, that she is not fleshed out.
Great.
So speaking of M and Silva, who was mentioned, Silva is the villain, right? And the villain's plot. Anyway, I keep going over. Does anyone want to talk about what Silva's plot is? Anyone want to sort of sum up what he wants and what he's doing here?
Revenge. Wants to let out names.
Yeah,
he wants to really fuck over M.
That's it. Yeah, right.
Any way, shape possible.
It's so funny how like delusional he is. Like, this is all fate. This is just like brought me to you, and it's like all of the little terrorist, all the little bits of terrorism along the way are just.
This dude plans a lot. That whole thing he planned out with the subway and all of that.
Yes, right down to knowing exactly within seconds when Bond was going to be exactly in that spot.
Is this one of your problems with the movie?
This is that I love that moment too. It's such a cool shot. It's great. If you think about that moment for more than 2 seconds, it kind of falls apart logically. The rest of it works, but that particular moment is like, okay.
He's my favorite Bond villain of the Daniel Craig era. Probably
he's great.
He's for sure.
Yeah.
He has his own. He has the look of a Bond villain. The dude has his own island, which you should have.
Yeah,
if you're going to be a Bond villain.
If you own your own island, you are probably a Bond villain.
He's actually scary and actually has multiple people who can do things.
Yeah.
Like he is multiple armed people that he can throw in his cannon fodder. It's great.
Yes.
And he's got the deformity, which that's a big Daniel Craig like Bond thing, right? That like they gave Le Chiffre the crying blood. Whatever the hell from Quantum of Solace was just a normal.
He had nothing, but he looked like a frog. He looked like
it was just his own face.
It was his face.
That was it.
He was just,
But so like
another
the one henchman in that movie had a bad hairpiece. He was the true Bond villain.
That was his deformity, a bad hairpiece. He just should have accepted he was bald and gotten over with it. But yeah, so like Silva's whole thing is, and this is like he's a terrorist. He's a former MI6 agent who turns terrorist, who is targeting M and MI6 specifically for revenge. Because what happened, as we discussed before, he was burned. M burns him to save 6 other people. And she mentions, and I do want to discuss this in a bit, but she mentions that he went on his own and started hacking the Chinese, and so he was caught and we cut him loose. And my question is, do you think she's telling the truth there, that he really went on his own? Or do you think that's just a way to her to go, yeah, that's why we cut him loose, because he did something he shouldn't have done? Or do you think he was working on MI6's orders and she cut him loose anyway?
I don't know. At one point, he's bragging about doing his own missions and picking his own missions and shit. So
okay.
He was rogue.
I don't think she has a reason to lie in that moment.
Yeah.
Like to bond about it. It didn't feel like a lie, because I'm just thinking story-wise that for her to be lying in that moment it makes it too muddled and confusing. If we go with that as a look to try to make it a deeper analysis, I think it muddles the story a bit.
He's like a parallel to Bond too, right? In that
he is.
Or it's like he could be what Bond would be if Bond is on paper a reckless Bond. You know, if Bond wasn't as beautiful, sensitive, caring person that he is, like you'd be a Silva, you'd be a crazy egomaniac.
Well, in his mind, he is, because he does say that at one point, like, well, she was, I was her favorite back then, because he says something like, he was
children.
And so it's like
80s and 90s.
Here's the thing with Bond, it's the same sort of deal, right? She begrudgingly lets him go out on his own, but when he gets into trouble, she doesn't save him. She in Quantum of Solace, she would have been more than willing in a heartbeat to, if the Americans got him, let the Americans do whatever they want with him. She would defend him at home, less because I think she's defending Bond, and more because she's defending MI6 and its actions. But I think she would have would have traded Bond if Bond had gone into China on his own. Also, just another small thing I forgot. She mentioned specifically it's like 6 lives and a peaceful transition. It's the trade happens in like the 90s, because it's when I think she's referencing Hong Kong trading over. And so essentially what she's saying is, I saved 6 agents and I averted a war that could have happened.
And I have a question about Silva. When he did the cyanide capsule, did that trigger his extra craziness? Not that like did it drive him more insane? The fact that you could feel your insides burning and everything.
I think so. I think I read it as that's how it went down, because he makes a point to take his upper face off and show and he looks like Gollum actually from Lord of the Rings. And he talks, as you said, about his insides burning, and he I think even says like it's at that point he realized that she had betrayed him, not like she was doing this to him.
And that could
and I think that was it. Like because I don't think had he been the Silva we saw in this movie, I don't think he would have taken the cyanide capsule. I think the cyanide capsule is what you do for Queen and Country. Okay. But it's because that didn't work. I think that made him sort of make that next step.
Yeah. I'd rather die than he's like almost. Yeah, I thought it was like there's no line that says that. I feel like there was indication that he was like, and now I'm like, and it's like crazy now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's implied for sure, though.
Yeah.
And like my thought on Silva, because Ginny, you had brought this up before. He's like a parallel of Bond. I think it's even more than a parallel. He's the shadow Bond. Like if you're familiar with like Joseph Campbell and the Shadow Self and the Hero, right? Like he is James Bond, except much like Batman and the Joker, they have that one bad day. And Silva goes one way and Bond goes the other, because Bond has the same experience that Silva does. Bond is shot on M's order and falls to his death, but not really because of plot armor. But he didn't know he had plot armor at the time. and he comes back to do what's right for Queen and country, and Silva comes back to destroy the system. So I think like that's why Silva, in my opinion, is the best James Bond villain in the Craig run, because they're like connected. They're the same, two sides of the same coin.
And I think that's like a real nice depth of story that you don't always see, and makes for a stronger villain in any sort of movie. Whenever you have that sort of mirroring or that sort of like connection, and they have really great scenes together, which I think is another important thing. I think that's another reason Silver is like a better villain than the two earlier ones in the Craig movie, because they have more scenes together for longer where they play off each other, where like more than just in Casino Royale, there's a bunch of poker scenes, and so he technically is with Le Chiffre a bunch, but it's not in the same dynamic of I'm talking, you're talking, we're getting to know each other, we're making power plays verbally instead of just and physically instead of just in this poker game, and then at the end,
Actually, my biggest like ding on Silva is that he's not in this movie more.
That's what I was gonna say. He's only in I feel like I was just like he's like not in that much of the movie.
I didn't time it, but it really did feel like he doesn't actually show up until like halfway through.
No, I did time it, and it's about halfway through. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like when he shows up and he's got Bond like captured, and he gives the monologue, which I got to start teaching this monologue when I get my drama class back, about like how you catch rats.
Oh, so good.
Oh, yeah.
And
awesome.
The whole comparison of like, what do? You drown them? No, you just let them kill each other. And then what do you do with those last two rats? Well, you release them because they don't have a taste for your fruit anymore. They have a coconut. They have a taste for rats. And it was like, wow, what a beautifully written monologue for a villain.
Very good John Logan writing. This is John Logan at his best.
Here's what I'm happy about. I finally have a point in which I can disagree with Jason. While I think Silva is excellent and I would kind of love him to be in the movie more, admittedly, I think his absence in the first half of the film makes him a more effective villain, because you don't see, it's like the horror, it's like the monster is scariest when you don't see him. You're just seeing, here's the effects, here's the effects, here's the effects. And then when he shows up, he amps it up even more, and it means even more. And it's like, here's even more results. You thought you got him, but you didn't get him. And I think, I think that setup of just who blew up MI6, who's got this connection, who's doing all these things, like, I think that makes him an even more effective villain.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't think you're disagreeing with me, though. I think we are agreeing.
I'm disagreeing with you.
In the sense that because I'm not going to let you have this, Will, because you want it. In the sense that
it's already mine.
They leave us wanting more, so they do their job well, but we're supposed to want more. So we want more of Silva, but to your point, the reason we want more is because he's so good at what he has, and if he had more, we wouldn't want it. So we're in agreement here, Will. That's good. I'm glad we're in agreement. Ginny or Ed, any other thoughts about Silva? I'm saving the end action sequence and the end of the movie until we do action. I want to do that close to the end. So I'm talking outside of the end, because I think that the last 20 minutes of this movie is the conversation in and of itself.
We can't talk about his Riddler style in Batman Forever granade throwing. We can't.
Yeah, when we get there.
No one wants to talk about them flirting, or like.
I was. Jenny,
if you were going to say it,
I was actually. It was on the tip of my tongue. But go ahead, go for it.
Yeah, I wrote it's hot. It's a hot scene.
Oh, it's hot too.
Expound on that, please.
It's great, and it was such a big deal when it first came out, because everyone's like, "Oh, Bond's indicating that he might have been with men," and it's like, yeah, why not? Like, but then also, it's just like because he's also trying to use it to like to intimidate him. I'm sure that's what the intention is. But Yeah, it's like it's just a great intimate. They have great chemistry, and it's a good. That's
do.
like and also great directing. I just love it. It's like and it's
Ginny, I have an important question.
hmm
Better intense man-on-man sexual tension scene, the interrogation scene in Skyfall between Silver and Bond, or Satan and Constantine. Go.
No, it's Satan and Constantine. That's a great.
Everyone in
They are.
Constantine. Constantine is with everyone. Is ever too close to everyone in that movie. Everyone's about to kiss, and no one kisses.
Constantine, a movie for some other show.
I cannot wait until we get to Constantine on Granny's PhD because I am a staunch defender of that movie.
You're welcome. You're welcome for all
words.
the teasers that I keep throwing in there for you. Check it out on our other podcast
that other show.
We have a podcast just for Constantine. Really, it's all Constantine all the time. Just the movie. About Constantine. Only the one Keanu Reeves movie, not anything.
Well, all right. We talk about a lot of Constantine, but not the Keanu Reeves
it's
one
not
yet.
Keanu Reeves.
But we'll get there.
I like that. I like that scene a lot. I was just gonna I think it's kind of like a big. I think it's one of the great scenes of this movie, and it's just like a little moment. And he's so. This is the same. This is Javier Bardem, who was in No Country for Old Men, and he's such a different villain in this movie. It's so great. It's so great.
It's great. I can't wait for his villainous turn as Ricky Ricardo.
You know what he will be.
Lucy, I'm home. But all right, so we got Silva. We talked through Silva. Before we get to the end of the movie, I want to talk. We actually got some Q branch to discuss. We actually have our first official Q in this movie, our first official Q branch, and the first gadgets we get are a gun,
signature gun,
and a radio. And we also get, were you expecting an exploding pen? We don't really do that anymore.
So he acknowledges that it did happen before, just not now.
It did. Just not, we don't do that now.
I love that whole scene that they have sitting next to each other.
Brilliant.
The whole conversation is an incredible introduction to this cue.
It's a fantastic introduction to the character. It's a fantastic interplay between them. Like, by the end of it, you can feel the respect that they've gained for each other in that conversation. Like, these two might be friends. I love it. And I thought also did a really nice job thematically, like tying into like the themes of the movie, like old ways, new ways, how this works. And that theme being sort of the meta theme of Skyfall and the Daniel Craig movies overall. Specifically Casino Royale and Skyfall, that is so clear. It's less clear in Quantum of Solace. I'm taking the chance to take a shot at that movie finally.
When Ben Whishaw is like looking at the painting and he's like, it's kind of sad, isn't it? It's a great warship being taken away for scraps of metal. Right.
Such a great
is that like
it's so great
to the
And that's the thing. And I actually I messaged Ed and Ginny while I was watching this last night, like, wow, the theme of this movie is like age and its role in the workplace, because it really is. Like, they're trying to push M out of retirement. They think James Bond is too old. Q is really young. There's all these like allusions and metaphors. And I really
the other agent whose name we haven't gotten to is a little less experienced.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Is this really right for you?
And she's also the future, right? Because she's working with Mallory, and Mallory becomes M at the end. So I love when a James Bond movie like actually explores meaty themes like that.
Well, M was also getting pushed out because they also felt she really fucked up, and they're like, "That's enough."
They took the chance. They took that chance to be like, "Okay, now
you really screwed the pooch, miss." It's time.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, so I think that leaves us to the end. Unless anyone else has anything about Q Branch, we can talk about the last 20 minutes, because we talked about the Bond girl, right? The Bond girl in this is M.
It's,
Well,
it's
we're glossing over
Sabrine.
it, yeah.
Sabrine.
Yeah, and she's a big thing to talk about for me in this.
All right,
There's a,
Will,
there's
take
a
it.
little Bond girl. There's a very pretty Bond girl.
Yes, the
Sabrine.
one whose name we don't learn
I said
for quite a
Sabrine.
while.
Yes.
She's
Who's
actually.
petrified.
Yeah, well,
Can we talk a little
but the
bit
thing
about
is-
her without mentioning her name so that we can get to that ending and shit on it a bit? But
I was talking the other Bond
ahead,
girl. Are
Will.
we talking about the same Bond girl with the Komodo dragon scene?
yeah,
Yeah, no,
it's
that's
the
like-
one that kills him. They're all yeah. Right?
no,
Yeah.
but
I don't think we're on the same page right now. I think Ginny and
No,
I are on
I
the
think
same
you-
page of the Bond girl who.
The
Where-
French girl, the really
No, the French girl. Yes.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm sorry. We're talking about. Sorry. The other agent is.
Oh, I was
also
talking
in
about the
that
French
scene
girl. Oh yeah,
adjacent.
yeah. I was just talking
So-
about because she was a small French.
Yeah,
but
you know,
we're never going to talk to her about her. So I just wanted to throw her in there.
Oh
Yeah.
no,
The French
she's the
girl.
one I have more to say about.
Oh, do you?
Oh,
all
sincerely.
right, so
Um,
let's talk about the French girl.
right.
then
Double
we'll-
checking
and then-
name. Yeah, Severine, which I might have
Severine, yeah.
mispronounced. Severine.
That's Sabrine.
Or Severin.
Yeah, this is the biggest problem I have with this movie. Because in general, it's a James Bond trope that I'm sick and tired of. And it's like, oh, Bond sleeps with the woman, and then that woman is dead. And like just dead. And it's like it's in Casino Royale twice. It's in
Daniel Craig.
Quantum
It's
of
very Daniel Craig.
it's in
trope.
Quantum of Solace. It's like, sorry, the James Bond, the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies are, not perfect movies, but man, I miss the trope where James Bond sleeps with the secondary Bond girl and then she turns out to be the villain. I miss that.
Sabrine almost is like that. She's almost like supposed to be a villainess.
She's like
but it's a twist.
anti-hero
like,
but she also doesn't do anything because she was like her let him on the boat anyway sort of deal. Like it doesn't mean anything. She's taking him to where she was going anyway. She doesn't make any sort of bold choice and then they get arrested and then she gets killed. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm tired of just fridging female character after fridging female character in these movies. It's the worst part of the whole movie to me. Because she's pretty cool in the casino scene. She has a really great interplay with Bond. She's really cool.
And she has a very cool backstory about like right, like she was sold into sex slavery and she's being and so I think like when you I agree with you.
Then it's another trope of it's going into Quantum of Solace, right? Here's the woman and her backstory is how her life was fucked up so terribly.
Yeah, that's a good point. But like I'm agreeing with you in the sense that when you give a Bond girl, and I always like to put that in quotes because I think it's I don't like that term, but it is the term. Mm-hmm. When you give them a backstory that heavy, it's to just murder them. It's like, I don't love that either. Maybe that was why I was glossing over the Bond girls because I didn't really like the treatment of Severin, and I actually don't see the other agent as a Bond girl. I kind of just see her as another character in the movie, especially because of who she becomes. But yeah, I agree with you, Will. I don't really love the trope of sleep with them, kill them, sleep with them, kill them. It's not a good look.
It's an awful trope. It really is. It needs to not
and it's
be
mostly in the Bond. It's mostly in the Daniel Craig series. It's like in every Daniel. I haven't seen the last one yet, but it's in.
It also goes back to Connery, like.
Connery,
like half the women Connery sleeps with guys. Yeah.
But is it also
it might even be in the Roger Moore too.
And it's also they also talk about, and because it's not just the women who die, there are men who die too, because you're in your alliances with Bond, and if you're alliance with him, you're gonna die. Like death follows him everywhere, which is sometimes they're women. A lot of the time,
one of them ends up getting poured gold on her.
Yeah, but
it's
it's worse when the alliances also have sex with him and then die. Like it's a horror movie, and you lost your virginity, and now the serial killer pops out of the trees. It's like that's such a problematic thing for me. Like hate it. Yeah, that's get off my soapbox now for that one. But
drop that soapbox.
It didn't upset me. It didn't upset me, I guess, as much because I guess going into it, it was a Bond film, and when I first saw Skyfall, I was kind of expecting it. So whatever. But can we just name the other person? Then that's
I think
in the film. We're dancing around it too much. If you watch this, you've probably seen the movie. Spoiler alert! When did this come out? 2012.
Yeah, we've been spoiling everything else, and we've ran the bit of not saying
what this whole thing is for. No,
in all fairness, I wanted to dance around that.
No, I love the fact that they gave Moneypenny like her whole story in the field and everything like that, and a reason of why she's behind the desk now, as opposed to just being, hey, that's the secretary.
I actually like a lot of it.
Yeah, I love a lot of it. I love her whole thing, her introduction, the fact that she killed Bond, and later on, killed Bond, but later on we find there's the whole shaving scene, which is like we're gonna get real close, but not quite.
Yeah,
which I thought was really cool.
Yes,
and because there's a lot of that in the old movies where they always flirt a lot, and that's it. And this might have been like the most they've ever flirted.
But she has power. She's the power over him, where she has like
the
knife in her hand again.
Ready to kill him. Great scene.
And
again,
tension in so many ways.
Yeah.
Although I love that she's like she gets on her knees to do it. Like so, it's like it's this weird power play, right? Like she has power, but there's also this like sexual sort of language that's being used, even though they're not having sex. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then when we find out at the end, who she is and everything like that, and she announces herself, I'm like, fucking awesome, cool. Like it's all being set up, for more of the classic Bond. Now he's kind of like transitioning to it. Like the first 2.5 movies were like James Bond Begins, and now it's kind of like going into it.
James Bond Begins.
two and a half movies because you saw the half of that movie. I love it. I love that that's here's the thing. I love that that's who she is. I love the whole story. I absolutely think they fumble the actual reveal so badly. Like the actual lines and the way they awkwardly shoehorn the name in is just terrible. When he's like, by the way, we've never been formally introduced. And it's like, you were just partners on a mission to, like, in the opening, she shot you.
True.
You've talked together multiple times. She came as like your handler. She was your handler on that mission. You had the very intimate shaving scene. She's like your regular coffee house barista, and you just walk in and you never know your name. You never exchange names. And then you just, that's it. It's like, I don't believe that for a second. Like, I would have almost liked it better if he was walking by her desk and she had a nameplate. If I had seen the nameplate, I would have lost my shit. I would have been like, oh, that's great. But like, that line was so hokey. It was like, oh, you should go by your middle name, Robin.
Yeah.
Like, so it was that level of bad. That level of bad.
I can't disagree with that. I actually like.
No, you wait. No, I'm supposed to disagree with you. Yes, you should agree with me. I'm correct.
Well, I wouldn't go that.
I wouldn't go as far as the Robin name, because that was like the worst. No, actually, the solo naming was even worse than both of them. I think, at least.
What was the solo naming again?
Oh yeah, when he's like, "Oh, I'm a," what do you say? Something like, "I don't have a family" or something like that, or like a last name, and he's like,
"Oh, great,
you're solo, aren't you?
Oh, you're alone." Oh, okay, yeah, his name is Solo.
Yeah, that was.
If he said if he was with someone else, he would have become called Double. Or triple, or
your duo, your trio, your quartet.
Yes,
quartet.
I'm
that would have sounded like a Star Wars.
Yeah, that's like the goofiest name reveal I think I can recall.
All right,
at least
I agree.
now.
All right. Anything else before we get to the last 20 minutes in closing thoughts?
Yes, we haven't really talked about my favorite action sequence, which is not even a very long action sequence, and yet it's the whole Shanghai sequence. I think is the most beautiful, super cool looking part of the movie.
With the neon lights outside.
Yeah, and like the blue light and everything. Like watching that whole scene, like that was some stunning direction. Then I enjoyed Macau quite a bit. Like to look at just the shots going through this whole movie, like when he's on the boat and the lights and he's going into the dragon mouth, and it's like even when he flips in the opening sequence, when he flips into the train and he buttoning his cufflinks, like those shots are just so good, like so
I
good.
Agree. It's a beautifully shot movie.
One knock on the beauty of it, small knock, is the Macau scene and the Komodo dragons. I don't remember them looking as CGI when I saw it in theaters, as opposed to when I watched it today in HD on my TV and just went, oh, this is a shame. That's the one thing where those Komodo dragons are clearly CGI, and I kind of wish they weren't in here. Like that pulled me out in that moment. But
I screamed the first time I saw those Komodo dragons. Is that alarming to anyone else?
I saw them when I was watching it last night. I was like, wow, that's interesting. There are Komodo dragons down there. All right, then. Like I didn't know how to respond, to be honest. All right, so I think that brings us to the last 20 minutes of the episode. we got 20 more minutes. No, last 20 minutes of the movie. Welcome to Scotland.
Yes.
So
great
the end
line.
of this movie, it is a great line. The end of this movie sees James Bond trading, like M is in trouble. Silva has escaped. He planned the escape. Everything was planned. He masterminded everything from the beginning. Bond grabs M. They give the company car in for the good old Aston Martin. They go to Scotland on the moors where Bond's ancestral home is. You find out he's an orphan. You find out that M says, has a great line, orphans are the best recruits, because they got no family, no one to care about them. You meet Kincaid.
Yes,
Kincaid.
We finally meet Alfred. I mean, Kincaid. Yes.
And what I love about Kincaid and M is this is Bond's mother and father. Like, not really, but like symbolically, right? He looks at M as his mother, and he looks at Kincaid as his dad. Kincaid is like the old groundskeeper who's been there since Bond was a boy. And Bond like hunkers down the ancestral home, and he gets ready to fight off Silva and his men, or in his army. I don't know if they're all men. That's very sexist of me. His army. And then you find out, very important, there's like tunnels underneath, which I thought was set up very nicely. M does her Home Alone thing. Kincaid gets his rifle or his shotgun, whatever that is. And Bond pretty much sneaks to the Aston Martin and shoots everyone's legs out with the Aston Martin machine gun.
That's great.
And I think that's that is an awesome beginning to this scene, right?
It's great.
Yeah.
And then it's a lot of gunplay, Bond is killing them with the Aston Martin guns and Kincaid shooting them, and then they get in and Judi Dench is home alone the whole place. And then at some point, Judi Dench and Kincaid escape through the tunnels, which Bond then does a super badass thing where he pretty much gets these propane tanks and puts a fuse on them and lights them, while Silva, as Will had said, is Riddler bombing into there. But I got to tell you, though, I think as much as I hate that in Batman Forever, I love that scene in here because
it plays so much better.
Silva is Bond's shadow, and Silva knows if I go in there, he's going to kill me. Because if I was in there and he went in after me, I'd have home advantage. I would kill him. I'm just going to shoot this thing up with my helicopter because he comes in the helicopter, and then spend 15 minutes just throwing bombs in there. Something's going to kill him.
It's it's one of the most logical strategies that a Bond villain has ever actually had. It's I don't need to show up and get fancy. I got bombs, man.
I came prepared for this. It might as well have been dynamite where he's just lighting it and throwing it in. It literally could have been that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, Bond then blows the whole place up. He gets after the escape tunnels. And I love this scene. The explosion of the house takes the helicopter down, makes it crash into the house and destroy it more. And then all that's left is Silva and like one or two of his guys. And then Silva sees M escaping because they're out of the tunnel, and he starts chasing them. And then Bond comes out. There's this cool thing where he shoots at Bond's feet and like has this whole like scene where he's like, relax, come on, take a breath. What are you doing? Which is super chilling because it's like, you're going to kill him. Where is this going? And then Bond, like, you know, shoots the circle and goes into the ice. And so, like, what did we think of this last action scene? Like, what are some good and bad points of it? If
It's
there
beautiful.
are bad points.
I just like again, gorgeously, Roger Deakins is amazing because every time I'm like, I want to be like, oh, commenting on the action. I'm also like everything is shot beautifully. Like you could just freeze frame it and it's like a port picture. But yeah, it's scary. I get scared. I get alarmed when Silva gets to the chapel, right where she is, and he's just like, I don't know, like gone mentally, and then and it, you know, Albert Finney comes out and he just shoots him. He's like, no, we're just like, I'm just focusing on her, and it's and it's just like, you know, he's scary. He's when
he puts the gun in her hand, right, and he puts it to her head, and he puts his head next to it, and he goes, "You're the only one who can end this."
That
just
obsession.
Pull that trigger.
Obsession is scary.
Obsession is scary.
I agree.
Yeah. You know,
and I love the fact that he's like, no, I'm gonna die. He's the first Bond villain to go, no, I'm not surviving this. That's not the point. The point is I take you with me.
Yeah, he says something along the lines of like ending it for both of us or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the line is exactly. I really like the whole like fight between Bond and one of the nameless henchmen that they go under the ice and it's like pitch black. And I love the fact that the entire I don't know why I've never seen things like that in movies where people are fighting in like dark and they're trapped under ice. I don't know if it's like a weird claustrophobic. Like I'm actually very concerned about both of them at some points. I'm like, man, that's really gonna suck to be in there because it's freezing. They're under the ice. You can potentially not get out of there. There's a whole bunch of different ways to die. How the hell are they seeing each other under there? Because it's probably pitch black. A lot of questions. But I love the fact that the entire final battle after the explosion, the only light around is the immense fire from the house that lights everything that we see for the rest of or at least for that portion, that scene. Is I think just a really cool and excellent choice there.
For sure.
Everybody said so many great points. It's a really excellent ending sequence. Even just, you know, a lot of movies fall apart when you suddenly add a new character right at the end, and they're like, you're supposed to care about it. But damn, Albert Finney's just real good, man. It's like he's just right there. I'm like, yes, I'm all about this dude. I care about him immediately. This is great.
He's got two great lines when he goes when Bond is like, he's like, all right, you shoot that, remember the pull I taught you, and he misses and he goes, what do you do for a living again? That's the first great line Kincaid has. Second is when Bond goes, are you ready? He goes, hi son, I was ready before you were born.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. It was so good. And I just wanted to say, like, it's going with that theme, right? Meta theme of the Daniel Craig movies are such heavy wink nods to the movies that have come before it. Like, I kind of like the fact that not only does he drive the classic Aston Martin with the ejector seat button and the machine guns, and you like, here's everything. Like, they literally go to Scotland. They literally, his ancestral home, literally take it back to Scotland. Like, come on, that's simultaneously really on the nose, but also perfect.
Also, they mentioned the ejector seat between him and M, where he goes and goes for the button, And she's like, well, go ahead, whatever, inject me then.
Yeah. I love
I
that.
think
You
that
think
was
I
great.
can? It's a great moment. All right. So anything about the ending? All right. So real quick, we'll just wrap the ending up. Bond shows up as Silva's about to make M kill them both. He throws the knife in the back, which goes back to the beginning, like Ginny pointed out. And I do love that they're kind of brothers, right? Because they are kind of like brothers in MI6 or the same person. And he literally kills him by stabbing him in the back. I thought symbolically that's kind of cool.
It's a more intimate way to do it.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry, Jenny. Go ahead.
I know he's like backstabbed again. I don't know if he felt like backstabbed, betrayed the first time with M in general, and he just gets it.
Right, exactly. And we didn't really talk. We didn't really talk about it, but he tries to recruit Bond to his cause in like the sequence by the pool when he's interrogating him. So it really, Ginny, you're right. It really is like a second backstab from someone that he thought that he had a connection with. And then M dies in Bond's arms. Bond goes home. We find out Moneypenny is Moneypenny. And Mallory is now M. And literally one of the last lines of the movie are you ready for your next mission? Oh, I'm ready. Done. Bond will be back.
With pleasure.
With pleasure. That's it.
With pleasure. Yeah.
So, any thoughts about the end of the movie or anything that we missed that's in your notes that you want to kind of get to?
I have a question. You guys will probably know. My husband Tom said that the groundskeeper Kincaid was supposed to be played by Sean Connery because it's Scotland.
I did hear a rumor about that.
If he had like been willing to do it, and then it would have been a little bit more like a full circle.
Yes, I did hear that was something they were looking for. I don't know of the veracity of the truth of that rumor, but.
What do you think? That'd be cool.
I think it would have been cool. That. I agree. I think it would have been
that. That would have been really cool, actually.
Welcome to Scotland.
Welcome to Scotland. I was ready before you were born, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, I can totally just hear it now. Then
wait, I have a question.
And he would have gotten with Judi Dench. Then
I have a question.
Take your panties off. I used to be James Bond.
This really small detail, like. Bugged me when I saw it. Like and so I don't know if it's something that I missed. They like, oh, we have your dad's old hunting rifle. We couldn't get rid of it. And then there's a very purposeful shot of like the initials on it, and the initials are AB. Is that supposed to mean anything or be significant in any way, or they just wanted to establish what's the
name
this
of
is
the
his
parents?
personal rifle?
They show his name. His name on a headstone.
I didn't take a note.
Albert.
Oh, Albert.
Albert.
There you go.
Like Albert.
They do say it eventually. They just show it. I don't know how many scenes later, but
like Albert Broccoli, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like a throwback.
Actually, I could see.
Is that what it is?
Well, I mean, his father's name is Albert Bond on the headstone. So I mean. I'm sure they, like you said, Jenny, they could have been Albert. And
throwback.
We know why. Yeah, exactly. I can roll with that. That's fine.
Yeah,
I think the word association scene when I thought was really cool. I really enjoyed that scene.
Yes.
Yeah, where he's going ahead and it's like what the heck is it? Weapon, when I was like death employment, and stuff like that. I thought that was really well. Yeah, and
Skyfall.
and she, Skyfall is when he gets stumped and he's like, "Oh, we're done here." He walks out, knowing that M is on the other side of the glass, and he's just like still fucking bitch.
Like needled him with that one because like that was the I
thought when he was doing all the testing and like crunches and pull-ups, I just got a flashback to the Simpsons episode with the X-Files team, and they're making him like run with the things strapped to him. They're like, "What's this test for?" No, nothing. I just thought he could these little waves.
Jiggling. Yes, it's hypnotic, isn't it?
So Bond like just getting back in shape. I just wanted him to,
just
get the stamina back.
I guess the only thing I want to talk about in my notes that I didn't is I got to see two subway dream scenarios happen in this movie. The first is Silva and Bond ride the middle of the escalator down, which I've always wanted to do. And then I saw someone actually on YouTube do it, and they like, you'll fall and kill yourself, right?
Yes.
But they do it and they're fine. And then when Bond has to get on the train, I've always wanted to do this, where he just like runs, jumps on the train, knocks to the conductor, like, let me in.
Yeah. Oh,
Two
man.
Subway dreams.
It's, you know, it's weird that there were two different Bond has to jump onto a train scenes in one movie.
Yeah.
Like, it, you know, it only happened twice, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah.
So here's the question. I think I know the answer, but is this mission a success? Is Skyfall a successful mission for the Daniel Craig James Bond? Jenny, I'm going to start with you.
I think it needed more awards. I just double checked the cinematography Oscar because it was nominated. It lost to Life of Pi, and I was like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
I just
That's
feel like
a shame.
yeah.
I didn't see Life of Pi. I saw the trailers, and it did look like exactly the kind of movie that would win Best Cinematography Oscars. But this one,
This
like,
is an art. This is art.
awesome.
it's of any James Bond movie, this is the one that deserved it.
Yeah, it's
It
gorgeous.
was like,
So pretty.
All right.
But yes,
So-
a success.
Success, Ed, success?
Absolute success. It's in my top 2 Bond movies, like, of the whole time. I mean, it's I told you, Casino
Yeah, you did.
Royale and Skyfall are my top 2, and I mean, for off of memory, Goldfinger's probably like 3. But yeah, it's right there. And after rewatching them, you know, together, it's really more like 1 and 1A. And Skyfall really pushes the limit, and I can see on a given day, I'm like, you know, some Skyfall's 1, it's fine. And then 20 minutes later, Casino Royale's it's fine. I can flip back and forth.
yes.
I really, really, really enjoy the shit out of this movie.
Jason, unlike you, Ed has excellent taste, and so he's my view is his point exactly. It's like this and Casino Royale are so good. I will say I actually, because of the M story that happens as well with this one, for me, Skyfall edges Casino Royale out by just a bit. But when I rewatched Casino Royale, I was like, oh, this could be the best one. Yeah.
I can agree with you right now. I'm agreeing with you that Skyfall is probably 1, and then, like I said, 20 minutes later, or by the time we sign off, it could be Casino Royale. Who the hell knows? Jason, I really want to know what you think of this, because you're the one who has only seen these movies once prior to this rewatch. Because I felt like you were poo-pooing on the Daniel Craig movies in a way.
I never really, they didn't hook me. I felt the Bond with a backstory was weird at the time it came out. Now I'm appreciating it. And honestly, I agree with you guys. I think this is one of the best. This is my top 5 for sure. I think, I don't know which I like more, this or Casino Royale, because they're both so good. It like you said, it's like it goes back and forth, but this is definitely top tier. Like, this was just such a fun and interesting rewatch. And again, like, it's not just like a James Bond movie. It's like, it's a real movie. You know what I mean? And some of those James Bond movies are not real movies, because Quantum of Solace is not a real movie. It's a fun James Bond movie. It's not a real movie. This is a real movie.
Is it fun?
I enjoyed it. But yeah, so no, I'm completely, this is, I think, a success all around.
For sure.
All right, and that brings us to the end. I want to thank Ginny and Ed for being my constant companions on this trek. I want to begrudgingly thank our guest, Will Ernstravo Blofeld. I'm going to call you that from now on. If you enjoyed this show, please check out the other shows on the PCP network, such as Granny's Peach Tea, which myself and Ed also appear on, talking about your weekly dose of comic book geeky goodness. If you like geeky goodness, please join Shooting the Sith, the PCP home for Star Wars. If you like everything between A and Z, then join the A to Z program with Eric. If you like Star Wars and the Yankees, join the Empire 161 show, also hosted by our good friend here, Ed. The Four Quarters show, which is general sports. The Jada and Kyle Show, which goes in-depth movie reviews. Just Too Sweet, which gives you all your wrestling fix. Put It in the Books, which is our Mets show. The Boss Man does that show. And We Stomp You Out, which I believe is football.
New York Giants,
It is New York Giants. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you guys next week with Double O Deep Dive Mission Spectre. So now can I do it? Will, do you expect me to talk?
Ed and Jeannie, I just want to say it was really great working with the two of you. It was wonderful.
It was great working with you, Will.
Yes, son of a bitch.